I'd like to welcome you all to the Ontario Community Changemakers Info Session. This session is provided to give you a bit of context around the OCC program and to help orient you through the application process if there's any questions. We're very excited to be in the third year of the Ontario Changemakers program. So what is the program? The Ontario Community Changemakers Program is an exciting leadership and microgrant program for young civic innovators with bold ideas to activate public space and enhance civic engagement and foster social inclusion. The program is now in its third year, powered by 880 cities and funded by the Balsam Foundation. So together with Balsam Foundation, 880 Cities is running this program. Just for a bit of context, if you don't know about who 880 Cities is, we are a nonprofit based in downtown Toronto, and we have a mission to ignite action and challenge the status quo to create healthier, more equitable, and sustainable cities for all people. We have a simple but powerful question, which is we believe that if everything we do in our cities is great for an 8-year-old and an 80-year-old, it will be great for all people. So we are looking for ideas that fall under these three themes: activating public space, enhancing civic engagement, and fostering social inclusion. If you're successful in becoming an Ontario Changemaker, you will get $5,000 in seed funding to implement one community project in 1 year. You'll have a year of guidance from 880 cities on topics such as planning, community engagement, and you'll have a supportive and inspiring network of peers from across Ontario to learn from. You'll also have monthly meetup sessions where we host workshops and speakers to help guide you through this year, and a graduation ceremony at the end of the program. So who can apply? The project or the competition is open to applicants between the ages of 19 and 35 who are residents of Ontario and who are able to attend the OCC studio in person. The OCC studio will take place on the weekend of June 24th and 25th in Toronto. And so we will be putting priority on applications from people who are able to attend that studio. Your project must take place in the province of Ontario or in a First Nations territory within the provincial boundary of Ontario. And you must propose a community project that activates public space, enhances civic engagement, and fosters social inclusion. The OCC application is open to everyone. We encourage applications coming from BIPOC communities, LGBTQS communities, women, and those who are generally underrepresented in the placemaking space. So just to reiterate, the studio will be a 3-day studio. The first day is an evening virtual orientation on June the 19th. That session will be just to get you prepared to come to Toronto, making sure everyone has filled out all the forms that they need, and again, answering any questions. You'll then arrive in Toronto on June 23rd, and all your expenses while you're in Toronto, your hotel, your meals will be covered, including your transportation to Toronto. Then for the workshop days, which will be Saturday and Sunday, June 24th and 25th, we will have 2 jam-packed days of workshops in Toronto and around Toronto with some really great facilitators who are people who have either gone through the program before or people who are doing amazing public space work in and around Ontario. So again, if you are selected as a changemaker, we do expect that you attend all 3 days of the Toronto studio. The studio really is an opportunity for you to meet a cohort and build a network of build a support network of peers. And we really do see this as something that underpins the entire year. At the studio, you'll have hands-on tools for developing project plans, budgets, participatory ideas. It really is an opportunity for you to get excited and learn from your peers about how you're all going to go forward over the next year. We've had some amazing projects over the 2 years of the OCC program that we've run so far from all over Ontario. We've selected individuals from Markham, Windsor, Toronto, Brampton, Hamilton, Ashburn, the list goes on, and they've all had amazing projects, many of which have morphed into something greater than they imagined when they started. Next slide is great. One such project is the Markham Pollinator Pathway. The Pollinator Garden is a public space in Markham using native plants. Project planning implementation included permits, branding, recruiting volunteers, design of the area, social media package, handouts, etc. This has been a really successful project from our first year. We also had the Activate Transit Windsor Essex in our first year project. And that project was, again, project planning implementation included relationship building, partnerships, and community. There was over 600-person survey. In our 2022 cohort, we've seen some change makers pick up on spaces where the previous cohort was working. So that's true. Again, we have a project taking place in Windsor around transportation. We have people running clothing workshops, sustainable clothing, how to mend clothing, how to make clothing. We have a Women of Color bike ride. We have so many exciting projects that our change makers are doing. And really, the point that I want to highlight is that the space is wide open. So if you see a need in your community, the space of our grant is really open to you to propose a project. And we're excited by all the submissions we receive. And you shouldn't feel limited to things you've seen in the past. It really is about bringing new ideas into the placemaking space. So the deadline for applications is May 14th at 11:59. That is a Sunday. You can scan this QR code here. It will take you directly to the application page. We encourage you to get started so that if there's any questions that come up, you have time to send them to us and communicate with us on those questions. There are two ways to apply. One is the application form. So that's an online form, and you can either type your responses into the form, or there is also a voice application for some of the questions, which will allow you to narrate your responses into the form. Alternatively, you can download the form and mail it to us, or email it to us if you prefer to fill it out by hand, but email it to us. So all of those options are available once again at our website, which is OntarioCommunityChangemakers.org. If there's any questions on the application, or if you have any challenges filling it out, please do not hesitate to get in touch with us. We are very excited to help you along the way of getting your applications in. There are quite a few questions that have been coming up over the years, so we encourage you to visit our FAQ page. If there's any questions there that apply to you, please check that out. But we are also here now to answer any questions you have. Please just raise your hand and our moderator will invite you to unmute your microphone. Again, if you have any questions that come up after this session, you can contact the OCC support team at this email address on the screen, or using the QR code that's on the bottom of the screen will take you to our website, which has all of that contact information on it. So I'm just waiting to see if we have any questions. Oh, I see something in the chat. No problem. Please type your question into the chat if it's easier than speaking. In the meantime, I see Lucy has a question. Brandon, if you don't mind inviting her to unmute.
Hi, I was just
Yeah, go ahead, Lucy. Yes.
okay. I was just wondering how developed our concept and our partnership should be when we're applying. Like if we're planning to get support or help from a municipal government or some other institution, for example, should we already have letters of support when we're applying? But yeah, so just wondering how cooked, I guess, our
yeah, it's a great question. I'm going to allow my colleagues Camilla and Brandon to also field some of these questions. They've been around for more of the application rounds than I have, But what I would say on that note, Lucy, is that the applications really come in various stages and people's projects are at various stages. So we've had applications where ideas are far more sort of developed and may already be in like some stage of implementation. We've had applications where it's a brand new idea and they're proposing to start from scratch. You can also apply, I should have noted, I'm sorry, earlier in the presentation, you can the grant is awarded on an individual basis, but you can apply as well through an organization. So for example, if you are working on a particular project within your organization, as long as you are the lead person on that project, you can apply to as part of a larger project. So we can only have one person per application, but you can apply on behalf of a group, or you can apply as part of a project that's already ongoing. So Camilla, I don't know if you have anything to add to that specific question.
Yes.
But yes, please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi, Lucy. Thanks for the question. Shannon is saying, to add to what she said, actually, you can, at the moment of the application, it would be good if you have an idea of who is going to be your partner. If you're partnering with an organization or a municipality, that's going to support your project or be part of it in some way. But also these relationships build up while you are already implementing your project. So I would say you just need to have that clarity. If you're applying as an individual and you're bringing a municipality later on, that's good, but be mindful that you have to let us know, that you're going to be willing to partner with a municipality and also, or any organization. As Shannon is saying, you are applying as an individual, and those other relationships can happen probably later. But at the moment of the application, have your idea clear, and also make sure that you are also sure about those relationships, if that's going to happen, because that's part of the agreements later on. Is that answering your question?
Yeah, that answers my question. I also have another question, if that's okay.
Yes, go ahead.
So are we limited to in where we can hold our project? So for example, I'm currently living in Toronto, but I plan to move to Ottawa in a few months. I'm hoping that I could do my project in a community in Ottawa. So is it okay if my current residence is not where I plan to do my project in a few months?
Yeah, as long as the project will take place in Ontario or a First Nations territory within the provincial boundaries of Ontario, that's fine. You don't have to be living in the location where the project will take place, or if you move and the project is like if you're moving to Ottawa and that's where you plan to do the project, that's also fine.
All right, thank you.
Great. I don't know who was next, Brandon.
Yeah, we have a question from Chloe Brainess. I'm going to ask you to unmute and you can ask your question, Chloe. Thank you.
Great, thank you. My question is kind of related to Lucy's in terms of working with partners. I'm wondering how much expertise we need to have ourselves on a certain topic to be proposing a project on that topic. Versus, having a strong interest in it and being there to coordinate while bringing in maybe a partner who's the expert on that topic. I guess just to use one example from the presentation about, say, mending clothing. If that were your project, but you're not an expert sewer, but you're really interested in, that kind of topic, would it be okay to lead that project without being the expert there and relying on a partner for that support?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, like the grant application and the budgets in terms of how the change makers will eventually allocate their budgets, there's a wide sort of range of possibilities. And so if the part of the budget that you would allocate was to, you know, an expert facilitator, that would be something that I think would be within the realm of normal for the budget purposes. I don't think you have to necessarily be expert on the topic that you are proposing, but you would have to show in your application, you know, what your plans would be to roll out such a program or such a project if you weren't yourself the expert. But I want to also stress that the Changemakers program is also meant to be a learning year. So we want people to, you know, explore new ideas or new relationships, to make new connections in their communities. So there is a lot of space in the application for people, and in the year of being a change maker, for people to learn a lot. We don't expect you to come having all the answers. That is part of what the program is here to help you figure out. And we hope that at the end of the year, you know, you've been able to put together a framework for a project that would have some longevity in your community. But I don't think, and again, Camilla and Brandon, feel free to jump in, but I don't think we would expect your application to be, you know, completely 100% in the finished stage of rolling out, or that you're the expert on the topic necessarily.
Thank you, Shannon. Now, just to add in for that question, I'd also say if you do have any experience or any investment into one of the activities you're doing, I would say that would make a stronger application. For the person that did the Mendine Libraries project with sewing, they actually were doing some sewing programs and just had some background experience. Again, you don't need full background experience, but to make your application much more stronger, I would recommend finding something that you might have a passion into, and that you can that you think you could be able to initiate by yourself, but also with support from others if you need. So.
And don't underestimate, also, I would just add, like, don't underestimate your own personal lived experience. I think a lot of what we're looking for in the placemaking space is for people to bring that lived experience to projects, and how can they improve space for their communities. I encourage you to check out the OCC website. We've just posted our first round of blogs of this year's cohort, and so there's some really interesting updates on the projects that they're working on. And again, a lot of those projects are coming from their own personal lived experiences.
Yeah.
And actually, I just dropped that link into the chat of the blog if anyone's interested.
And on that note too, I would also check out the past Changemakers and their projects. Just speaking to which, there was one Changemaker from last year that wanted to create a food library within her community, but had no experience at all. So hers was very unique and within her own community itself, and she was able to deliver in a very special way for her community. So even if you don't have all that experience, again, it's use your best judgment on what you're interested in and what you think you could do. And again, we're here to help you with that decision and to support you in your leadership.
Sorry, I just see in the chat that Muznat is having to go. I don't know if you've left already, but if you're still here, please do send us your questions. She had to go to class. I'm sorry we weren't able to get to your question. She said she'll follow up by email. Great. Are there any other urgent questions or things that the FAQ isn't answering for people? No? Okay, so I think then we can probably end this a bit early. Again, I'm just going to ask Brandon to go back to our contact page. Please do get in touch with us directly by email if you have any questions. Otherwise, you can always follow us on any of our social medias. We're responding to some messages there as well. And I really wish you all such good luck on your applications. I can't wait to see what you propose. And we're looking forward to hosting the studio in Toronto this summer. So thank you all for joining, and have a great afternoon.